Yo, what's good? What's good, everyone? I know y'all see the title, uh, the Willie Lynch letter, right? So we're gonna comb through this what they call the Willie Lynch letter, right? And we're gonna see like the systems that they implemented during those times, and to see is there any side effects or anything that we can see that's plaguing us today, right? So with that being said, all praises to the Most High. We do so in His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly called Jesus Christ, right? So, we're going to get through this Willie Lynch letter. Seeing that it is Black History Month, we're still keeping up with the theme of, Black History Month, and so yeah, so yeah, we're gonna get to it, right? So so then so this is the Willie Lynch letter. It says Willie Lynch letter, the making of a slave, right? So, cause we got to understand too, especially here in America, you know, America got that debt system that they run their country on, and debt is a form of slavery. Taxes is a form of slavery. Especially if you're taxing a nation that's not you know, a foreign nation, which we will be considered a foreign nation. I know we've been there for about 500 years or whatever, but we're still foreign to this American government because we didn't create it, right? So, so with that being said, um, so it says Willie Lynch letter, the making of a slave. This speech was delivered by Willie Lynch on the banks of James River in the colony of Virginia in 1712. Lynch was a British slave owner in the West Indies. He was invited to the colony of Virginia in 1712 to teach his methods to slave owners there. The term lynching is derived from his last name. Now, ain't that something, right? So, so we gonna understanding too. As far as the lynching part, we're gonna get back to the other thing. So, as far as the lynching, when you do the history and research, the first person lynched on this side of the hemisphere was a Haitian woman in the island of Espanol. They lynched her. That was the very first I ain't gonna say she was the first one, but she was the first documented lynching uh, person that was lynched. As far as they had a record on it, like paper wise and stuff. Because she didn't want to marry this so-called white man. So since she didn't want to marry him, they lynched her. So and it was saying that that his the term lynch is derived from his last name. And interesting enough, he came from the West Indies. Um, then it also says uh, he was invited to the colonies of Virginia in 1712 to teach his method of slave owners, uh, to teach the method to slave owners. Now you think about it in modern times where these business owners have these exposés and these little meetings that they go to throughout the country where they all come together, all these different business owners, and they discuss uh, particulars on how to run their company better, how to get more out of your employees, right? So this is the same philosophy, technically. This is why when you go to work sometimes, it feels like slavery, even though you're getting paid for it or whatever, but just the whole philosophy behind it, how the management works sometimes, it feels like slavery because they still follow the same philosophy, right? So moving on, right? So it says greetings, gentlemen. I greet you here from the banks of James Rivers in the year of our Lord 1712. Uh, First, I shall thank you, the gentlemen of the colony of Virginia, for bringing me here. I am here to help you solve some of your problems with slaves. So, like I said, just like how we was talking about earlier, that these in modern day these business owners have these little uh, uh, exposés where they come together and they discuss business strategies, and then they might have someone that will have a little what's the word I'm looking for, workshop, to teach business owners how to get more for their dollar out of the employees, how to you know extract more effort and out of the employees, right? So it's the same thing we seeing back here in the 1700s, right? So then it says, um, your invitation reached me on my modest plantation in the West Indies, which would be, I guess, Jamaica. Here I am experimenting with some of the newest and still the oldest methods of control of slaves. Ancient Rome would envy us, and our program is implemented, right? So interesting, because we do understand that America is an extension of the Roman Empire. And one of the things that the reason why Rome lasted so long, because Rome was good at, you know, tricking their slaves, were treating their slaves like they were free, and giving them the illusion that they were free, but they were actually still slaves. Just like how America is, doing today. A lot of us running around thinking because we don't have a collar on our neck and somebody beating us on the back that we're free. But I challenge you to try to get in your car and drive to Mexico without permission. They're gonna bring you back in handcuffs. If you jump an airplane without a passport, they're gonna bring you back in handcuffs. And you might say, well, everybody need a passport. But the problem is, this is not our government. This is not our nation. We're supposed to be free and able to roam, right? But that's not the case here. So, like I said, we do know America is an extension of the Roman Empire. So it says, boom, 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 where we at? Boom, boom. Ancient Rome would envy us if my program is implemented, as our boat sails south on the James River, named for our illustrious king, who whose version of the Bible we cherish. And I saw enough to know that our problem is not unique, right? So, and I believe that Bible that is talking about is that what they call the slave Bible. And the slave Bible is a Bible that they use, and they changed verses. They took certain verses out, and to make it seem as if the slaves should follow their master. And we see similarities today in the modern Christian church when you sit and listen to a sermon of the average, pastor. I know some of y'all might disagree because a lot of people like how the pastors preach and stuff. But we got to understand the same teachings that you learn in these churches on Sunday is the same teachings that the slaves used to learn on the plantation. That's why a pastor would never read certain verses in the Bible. That's why, you might hear me read a certain verse or talk a certain type of way, and it might be shocking because we were never ever told these things. So then it says, whose version of the Bible we cherish, I saw enough to know that our problem is not unique. While Rome used cords of wood and cross for standing human bodies along the highway in great numbers. So it's talking about how Rome used to crucify people, or what they call like a stake, set somebody up on a stake, which is a horrible, slow way to die. They take the stake. I don't want to be all too graphic, but they take the stake and they stick it up your rectum, and then the weight of your body slowly you know, get impaled with that stake until it finally runs out through your mouth or whatever it may, through your neck or whatever way it might end up entering out, right? So it's a slow way to die. And then they used to line you up on the highway or towards the entrance of the city. So when visitors or whoever come, they would see these bodies laying up there, and then it'll strike fear into them, right? So the same way back in the early 1900s, when they had like a whole lynching, uh, I call it a lynchathon, when they're just going around just lynching people left and right in Mississippi and different southern states, right? And they'll leave the bodies up there because during the rise of the KKK, during that time, that was their method of terror. So, and it's the same philosophy. So, this is how we know that America is a extension of the Roman Empire, just modern day Rome. The same descendants, same people. They're just calling themselves American now. So, and we say that too, like, just real quick. If you understand Einstein or follow Einstein, one of his teachings is energy doesn't disappear, it just changes to something else. So, that energy of that Roman Empire didn't go anywhere. It just changed itself into the form of what we call America and the EU today, NATO in America, and there. So so anyway, so it says try to get to this quickly. It says ancient Rome will envy us if our program is implemented as our boat sails south on the James River, named for our illustrious king whose version of the Bible which we cherish. I saw enough to know that your problem is not unique. While Rome used cords while Rome used cords of wood and crosses for standing human bodies along the highway in a great number, you are here using the tree and the rope on occasions. So it's getting into the whole lynching thing. He said, okay, just like how Rome used to use the crosses and the stakes to uh to execute people, I see what you're doing. You're using the rope and the tree. So this is what Willie Lynch is talking to the colonists about, right? Says I caught the whiff of a dead slave hanging from a tree a couple miles back. So imagine that this devil is on his way to deliver this speech and this method of slavery. Then on his way to his speaking engagement, he passed a dead person hanging on a tree. And so let's see what he said, right? I caught a whiff of a dead slave hanging from the tree a couple miles back. You are not only losing valuable stock by hanging, you are having uh, uprising. Slaves are running away. Your crops are sometimes left in the field too long uh, for maximum profit. So he's saying, like, look, man, you're hanging all these slaves, but then in the meantime that you hanging these slaves, the other slaves is getting, is causing them to have a uprise. It's calling them to rebel, because it's not doing the trick of, you trying to use fear to keep these people enslaved, but the fear tactics that you're using is essentially causing more trouble. That's basically what he's saying to these people, right? So then let's see. Then it says left in the field too long for maximum profit. You suffer occasional fires. Your animals are killed. Gentlemen, you know what your what your problems are. I do not need to elaborate. So he's, now getting into it, right? He says, I am not here to uh, en- what's that? Enumerate your problems. Um, I am here to introduce you to a method of solving them. In my bag here, I have a foolproof method of controlling your black slaves. I guarantee every one of you, if installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. Right? So he's laid in place a method to enslave people for at least 300 years if you do this correctly. We got to understand how these people work. And see, we so much in the bind that we live day to day. We just hope that we can make it through the next day. We just hope that we can get to the next week. We just hope that this month go by fast, right? But these people, they plan for hundreds and hundreds of years. They think about their children when they plan stuff out. See, us, we're so messed up in our situations that we don't even have the forethought or the time to even imagine a future for our grandchildren, children. We just trying to survive through the day for ourselves. We just trying to make enough to feed our children now and hope that the next generation be better. But these people are putting in systems that can guarantee that their grandchildren, children will be better. And we call it today white privilege, right? So it says, I have a foolproof method. I have a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. I guarantee every one of you, if installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. My method is simple. If any of your family or overseers can you, it's simple. Any one of your family or overseers can use it. So, and just do the math real quick. This is 1712, right? He said for 300 years. So this took place in 1712. Just do the math. Um, that would be 2012, right? That these these effects will still, linger around, right? And we can see how we are functioning as a people, you know, and we can see that it's some validity to this Willie Lynch letter and the system that has been set in place. So he's letting these people know that look, I have something that can last for up to like 300 years. And we're in 2023 now, and we see how our community function uh, as a whole. We don't have a lifestyle. You know how they say, what was that TV show they used to come on when we was kids? The lifestyle of the rich and famous, right? We don't have a lifestyle. We have a death style. That's what we have. Everything about us is about uh, procreation of death. That's what it's all about. Our songs, our music, our music, our way of life, our whole culture is surrounded by death, right? So it says, my method is simple. Any member of your family or overseer can use it. I have, I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves and take these differences and make them bigger. So he's playing off of he's talking about these differences of slaves, right? So meaning because we all come in different shades, right? You know, yeah, we have a lot of dark skinned people. We have brown skin, you know, light skin, or whatever how you want to classify us, right? But he's saying, look, we can use these differences amongst these people against them, right? So this is where the whole colorism start coming into play. This is where a lot of our people start looking at light skinned people different. This is where a lot of times where light skinned people start thinking that, since they're a little more fair skinned, that they're better than that they look better than the dark skinned people. So this is where all the confusion start coming in at. So it says, I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves, and taken these differences. I have taken these differences. Uh, boom, boom, boom. Where I'm at. I have taken these. I have making. I'm sorry. I have taken these differences and make them bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control and control purposes. These for control purposes. These methods have worked on my modest plantation in the West Indies, and it will work throughout the South. Take this simple little list of differences and think about them, right? So he's letting them know, like, look, you can put the the nappy head against the straight hair. You can put the brown eyes against the hazel eyes. You can take the you know you can take the light skin and put it against the dark skin. Dark and vice versa, right? So he's letting them know, like, look, man, this is how we split these people up and created differences in between them. We treat this type of person better than we treat this person. Then that would cause discourse among them because they're all being treated the same essentially because they're slaves. But then knowing that they're all in servitude, if you start showing favoritism to one of them, then that's naturally going to cause discourse. Just like if you have children, if you have multiple children, and you may show favoritism to one child, that other child is going to naturally start developing a resentment towards towards that other sibling. That's just a fact. So and they understand these things. So then it says, on the top of my list is age, but it's there only because it starts with a. And the second is color or shade. There is intelligence, size, sex, sizes, and plantations. Status on plantation, attitude of owner, whether the slave lived in the valley, on a hill, east, west, north, south, have fine hair, coarse hair, or tall or short. Now that you have a list of differences, I I shall give you an outline of action. But before that, I shall ensure you that. I see. Then it jumps to boom, boom, boom. I would make sure it cuts off there. That his speech. But let's get right here though. But now this is the Willie Lynch. Boom, 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 boom. Let's go here. So it says we're gonna jump here. The method of controlling, because it says the method. Yeah, because that one cuts off right there. So we're gonna jump here. So it says the method of controlling black slaves: distrust, fear, and envy. In the speech delivered by Willie Lynch in Virginia in 1712, it was noticed that the colony was apparently experiencing particular problems with controlling their black population. Inflicting pain, wounding, and hanging slaves were no longer effective, efficient method of influence. He said Willie remarks that had carried out certain experiments at his modest plantation in the West Indies and came up with good techniques which he supposed could help slave owners in Virginia to improve their authority among the blacks. First, he included a list of metrics he used to differentiate slaves, right? So then it says age, color shade, intelligence, size, sex. So then Willie Lynch declared that was utterly Willie Lynch declared that it was utterly important to put the slaves into categories according to those differences and pitch and pitch black against each other, considering they have nothing in common, right? So that's the thing. So it's building up this narrative that y'all have nothing in common. So this is where too we kind of start getting into that whole self hatred. Where you look at the next black person with hate. Like you can be walking down the street, see another black person looking at you, and then instead of saying, "Hey, how you doing?" You look at them, you size them up, thinking about how you would probably beat them up if you had to, you know, or how you so quick to hurt another black person versus anyone else, right? So it says a old black male was supposed to be pitched with the young black male, and that's what we see. Like, check that out. It says the old black male is supposed to be pitched against the young black male. Now, let's take this in modern consideration. Where do we really see that play out in? Other than, I mean, of course, in the household, because we got like older people, and probably like in they old, late 30s, 40s, and just on a bare minimum level, and you try to speak to like a little teenager or somebody that's in their 20s, they don't even want to hear you. You know what I'm saying? Like, and not understanding, because when I was growing up, I always knew to talk with older people because they have wisdom. That was instilled into me like at a young age to speak with older people. But now this generation, they're like don't even seek the wisdom of older people. They despise older people. They think older people don't know what's going on. So, but then we can see that play out that way. Then also in the hip hop and the rap music, that's why people that's a little older and rap that been around since like maybe the 90s or the 80s. Then you get the new generation of rappers. A lot of them don't respect the old generation uh, of, of hip hop stars and rappers, right? You know, they be like, "Oh, that old ass nigga, he not relevant no more," or how how people talk, right? So, and we can see the genesis of that when we reading through this speech right here. How it was implemented during that time to put the old against the young. So, because that's how we understand. Like, hold on, real quick, really quick. One second. Bear with me. Bear with me. Thing is moving a little slow. So now, real quick, this is Jeremiah. Because like I said, we should be able to talk to our elders and get answers, right? So this is Jeremiah 6:16. Thus said the Lord, stand ye in the ways and see and ask for the old path. And we can understand that old path, that old way of life from talking to our elders and getting the understanding from them. But like I said, we've been taught and tricked that old people don't matter anymore. That you can't learn anything from old people because they're out of touch. But we already knew, and it was our culture to sit down with the elders and get the knowledge from them. It says, stand ye in the way and see and ask for the old path where it is the good way. That it's the good way to understand your past, because what they say, if you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're going. So it says, uh, where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But ye said we would not walk therein. So Jeremiah is giving that prophecy, like even back then, that our people would not seek the knowledge of the elders. And now, given in this day and age, a lot of our elders are jacked up in the head. They, a lot of our elders can't give us the wisdom that they're supposed to, because they've been destroyed mentally. So now that's a fact. So, but if we only had that ability to go seek wisdom from our elders, but as we read in this Willie Lynch letter, that was a concentrated effort to take that from us, that we won't be able to seek our elders. And going back to the music metaphor, you look at these rock and roll bands like the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, and whatnot, right? White people still cherish, like young white people, like my age and younger, they still cherish the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and all those other big name groups that was big in the 70s and all that stuff, because they know how to respect their elders. They still look at their certain forefathers like George Washington or Ben Franklin and Thomas Jefferson or whoever type devil you can name. They still look at those people as something to look back to and cherish, but not us. We don't have that. So it says, boom, 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 boom. So yeah, that's it on that, right? So let's get back to the letter. So it says, boom, 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 where was it? So it says, boom, boom, boom. A old black male was supposed to be pitched with a young black male, a light skinned slave with a dark skinned slave. That's where the whole colorism thing come in, where how we have these little jokes, and I'm guilty of it too. I'm not above this, you know. I'm guilty of this too, making fun of light skinned people, calling them soft, calling them extra emotional. You know, one of my favorites is Becky with the good hair. You know, talking about the light skinned niggers. I'm guilty of it too. I admit, I ain't gonna stunt. So, but we understand this. That this was a concentrated effort to put us against each other. So it says, uh, the a light skinned slave against the dark skinned slave, uh, a male a male with a female, meaning put the men against each other. And we see that in our community today. That's why so much discourse in our relationships with our women or with our men. That's why a lot of us can't see eye to eye. Because you got to understand, um, this European uh, company, I can't think of, I say European because I can't remember the exact country in Europe that did the study. So it did a study on lab rats, and they put a shot collar or something like that on this lab rat. And so every time, you let them, they do the whole maze stuff. So they let the rat run around in the maze. So every time that lab rat got to a certain point in that maze, they'll shock him, right? And they did that for over and over again for a while, right? And to the point where the lab rat, once he got to he wouldn't go there no more, right? So then they put this lab rat with a female, and he made it, and it had children, right? So now they didn't do anything to the children. They didn't shock the children. They didn't put uh, shock collars on the baby mice. So they put those baby mice in the same maze that they used to have the father in. So the study was proven that how through genetics, trauma is passed down through the children. Patrilineally, right, through the children. So and it was showing that, demonstrating that. So they didn't put shock collars on the baby mice. So they'll let the baby mice run free, but subconsciously, whenever that baby mice got to the same area where his father used to get shocked at, it never went past it. And they never did any harm to the baby mice. So the study ultimately ended up proving how trauma is passed down through the offspring. So this is why we behave the way that we behave. And I tell people all the time, when you're dealing with a woman, you're dealing with a man, you have to have a level of compassion and understanding. And understand that we all jacked up in the head, you know, through these different methods that been implemented on our peoples. So you got to understand that you got to have a little extra special patience when you're dealing with a black man or you're dealing with a black woman, right? Because these certain things and measures have been taken against us, and we got to understand that. So it says, right. So it says, mm, a male with a female, according to Lynch, that would instill distrust and envy amongst the black slaves, amongst the enslaved blacks. And that's what we see today in 2023. A lot of envy, a lot of distrust. You know, listen to a lot of our songs, you know, about how we don't F with this nigga, or we don't like them hoes, or I ain't got no friends. You know, don't trust nobody. All the, you know the songs. Goddamn it, you know what I'm talking about. So and we see how this stuff is implemented. What's that movie? I forgot who did it. Trust None. Was that 3 6 Mafia? That movie they did, Trust None. All this stuff, right? And we look at it as something to be celebrated, but we don't understand that these were concentrated measures that was taken against our people, right? So it says, that could install distrust and envy amongst enslaved blacks, who would eventually find it safe to trust and respect and thank and love and depend on their owners. So this is why we value white people more than us. This is why a white person 11 o'clock at night can walk through the hood holding a briefcase and nobody really thinks to harm them. But let another black person walk through that same neighborhood, they're gonna try to rob them and see what they got on them. So a lot of times we think twice before we hurt those people. I'm not implying that we should hurt these people. I'm just saying the thought process of what we go through. So um, and a lot of times we're so quick to cause harm to ourselves and others, and we think a little longer and think harder if we should do anything to one of them. And my experience, and I say this because I say my experience, um, growing up when I used to see people like, white people hang in our neighborhood and try to, be around us, I noticed that they were like the most protected people in the neighborhood. Cause like no matter what happens, might have a few people that might want to come against that white person, but there's always going to be one or two niggers coming out the blue. Oh no, don't do nothing to him. Leave him alone. He cool. He all right. They always come out and put the cape on and be willing to save these people. So you gotta ask yourself why. Because we've been taught to love them and hate ourselves, right? And we gotta understand that. All right. So and it says, read it one more time. Who would eventually find it safe to trust and respect and thank and love and depend on their owners. After receiving this indoctrination, that's the key part. This indoctrination, he believes slavery would remain a fiction for 300 years, even even or even thousands of years. So he put a time period like, man, look, if you do this right, guaranteed 3,000 years, but at least maybe it can last to 1,000 years. He put that up there like that. And you think about how we are today. So, like I said, this was 1712 when he came up with this. We do 300 years to that. That's 2012. We're only in 2023, right? 11 years after the initial deadline. I mean, the initial time frame of what he gave, you know, right? And we can see how we act amongst each other. So we can see the concentrated effort and the time that they put to make sure this thing works, right? And we so caught up in all this other craziness that we don't see the wool being pulled over our eyes. We don't see what's really going on around it. And that's why it's important to go through this. A lot of us heard of the Willie Lynch letter, but we never really read it. We never dove into it. So now we're seeing what their game plan was from the beginning, right? So then, boom, boom, boom. So now the next part is called "Let's Make a Slave." So it says studying blacks was essential for establishing a solid advantage master slave relationship. Frederick Douglass scientific inquiry was supposed to help raise numerous generations of self refueling, self generating black contributions to the state economics prosperity. In his work, the slaveholder described a process of a man breaking. And a lot of us probably heard this term during the whole Kanye expose and Kyrie Irving when going through they stuff through the media. This whole man breaking stuff, right? But it goes back to the plantation too, where they used to take the biggest, strongest, male and beat him and rape him in front of his family. Yes, beat him and raped him. Okay, this is how sick these people are that we dealing with. You know that they will go into another man. This is what we're dealing with. So it says, boom, boom, boom. It says the slave owner described the process of breaking and slave making. However, he found breaking a slave necessary concerning financial management and critical for the owner's safety. Now think about that. Before I get into that, it was this TV like pretty sure some of y'all probably seen it on TV. But I was checking out this show called 700 Club, right? This little old crusty white man was on there, and he was talking about raising horses and training horses, right? Because he got a lot of horses. And so this woman, a black lady, a sister, she worked for him. Hopefully, she works for him. So so she asked, like, like, you're not scared of what dealing with these horses and stuff like that. So now he said something interesting. Even though he was speaking on horses, you know, it stuck with me. When I heard it, because I realized what he said is the same philosophy what they use to maintain a plantation. And he said horses are way bigger and way stronger than us. Feel like so if you don't break the horse and control that horse can kill you. So he was saying how important it was to control a horse and make sure that horse understand that you're his master and you have control over him. Because he said a horse is way too big. A horse can kill you in a second, right? So then, as I'm listening to him breaking down how to break a horse and how you can make it safe, I start thinking about what we're reading right now, like how they used to do this to us on a plantation. So it says, however, he found breaking a slave necessary uh, and concerning financial management and critical for the owner's safety. Because you can't have a whole bunch of swole, buff niggers running around your plantation if you ain't got no control of them, if you didn't feminize them and make them weak and docile. Because we can go to, in the recent years in California, I don't know if they changed it now, but they took the weights out of prison. Cause I don't know if you ever seen a picture of Tookie Wilson, nigga walking around like big, like Coxwell Diesel. You can't have niggas in the prison yard walking around like that with these little scrawny ass guards, you know. So they took the weights out of the prison. That's why you see people doing exercises in their cell, doing the little things when they lean against their little bed and they do the little arm stuff. You know what I'm talking about. Um, that's, because they like, man, we can't have these niggas out here big like this, big and strong. So they took the weights out of the prisons in California. Like I said, I don't know how it is now, but like I said, because you're going to have a whole bunch of Tookie Wilsons walking around like big, swole, hardly can fit through the damn door because they got so much damn muscles. You know what I'm saying? They got to turn their whole body just to look at you because they so goddamn big. You don't want that. I mean, well, they don't want that, should I say. So it says, then it says, for the owner's safety, otherwise a white family could not rest ensuring without anticipation of the possibility that a African slave could attack them in their sleep. I.e. pulling that Turner on their ass, right? So so they understood the importance of having control over these people and making sure that they are they will protect you before they will hurt you. Just like how Malcolm X would say, we sick, boss. You know what I'm saying? We sick, boss. What we doing today, boss? The whole we mentality. You know what I'm saying? The whole us mentality when you speaking with these people. You know, and he's making a difference between the house nigga and the field nigga. How the field nigga pray that the master house get burnt up. He pray when the master gets sick that the doctor don't come on in time. But you have a lot of we sick boss people running around here today. You know what I'm saying? So we got to break out of that, you know, way of thinking. So then it says, a white family could not rest ensuring without anticipation of possibility that the African slave could attack them in their sleep, right? So it says he introduced several terms in this work: orbiting, cycling, a thing turned, uh, a thing turning into a given path, axis, an imaginary line upon which a body rotates, phenomenon, an extraordinary concept whose cause and explanations is in question, multiplicity, a large number or variety. Okay. So just talking about the different terms he used, right? Boom, boom, boom. Then it says cardinal principles, short term planning never comes with guarantees. That is why Douglass was focused on emancipating the black females and younger slaves who assume would then rise would who assume would then raise their offspring in enough better way for still more comprehensive economics. His most crucial point was affecting the black mentality and psychological health, uh, once maintaining their physical features at a high level. So saying making sure they're nice and strong and healthy, so that way they can do the work and you can get some longevity out of them, right? And it says slavery management was compared to using horses for economics. So, in like the little story I kind of detoured off a little earlier about how that 700 Club guy was talking about breaking horses and all that stuff. So they're using the same principle here. So it says slavery management was compared to using horses for economics purposes. The document contains a description of a horse breaking process, which was supposed to be similar to breaking African Americans. So this is how they think about us. They think about us as animals. So breaking them is just like breaking horses. You know. So this is their thought process. This is how they look at us. And we say, oh, it's different now. Is it? When this plan was designed to last for 300 years or more, and we can see the effects on our community, how we act, right? And how they act. Is it? When could we say that, oh, they're not all like that? Could we at least agree to the point that enough of them is like that? Because it did last as long as it did, and it's still perpetuating. They did have something called redlining. They did have something called Jim Crow laws. It had to have been enough for them to be able to pass laws and still implement this discrimination and prejudice that they possess. So we cannot just go and say, oh, it's only a few of them. So you mean to say a few control the many, the masses? Because that's what it's looking like. So it's obviously more than enough for them to keep this going on. So we got to quit thinking like, oh, it's just a few of them. When the statistics and the longevity that we see doesn't show that it's only a few of them. Because if it's majority that doesn't feel that way, then that majority would have stopped this a long time ago. So we got to use our common sense and math here. This is America where they vote on everything supposedly. So the fact that certain things became law, that should let you know what's going on. So it says boom, boom, boom. So it says start it over again. So it says slavery management was compared to using horses for economic purposes. The document contains a description of horse breaking process, which was supposed to be similar to breaking African Americans. First, it was recommended to break the stud for limited containment, then subject the female horse until it totally submissive, gentle, and comfortable to use. Right. So, like I said, it's making a comparison with us. You break the male when you know the history, how they used to, like I said, they would destroy the male, in front of the woman and child. So then, after a while, that woman would teach her child, "Hey, we don't want whatever happened to daddy. We don't want that to happen to you. So you're gonna have to learn how to talk to master. You're gonna have to, behave a certain type of way so you don't die. Cause you my child. I love you. I don't want nothing to happen to you." The same way how we used to tell our children when you go out in the streets with these police officers, how to act with the police. Like don't do this with the police. Don't talk back to the police. Don't do this. Don't do that. Same philosophy, but instead of saying master, we instructing them how to deal with police officers. So moving on. Once a offspring is breed, it was suggested to leave the stud free until it was needed later and watch the mare teach the infant horse to eat from the master's hand and follow its own example, right? So we can, get into the whole Section 8 welfare thing. How, like I said, during that time they would, told the black woman to put her husband out, put her man out. Then at the same time, accept these gifts from me. I'll be the baby pappy. Like what's that movie Life? When they was asking, he was walking around with the baby, holding him up to everybody. He like, and everybody like, I'm the baby pappy. You know what I'm saying? So the government basically told our black women, I'll be the baby pappy. You know what I'm saying? And but then on the flip side, because white women was getting these benefits too. They never enforced the law towards white women to put their husband out of the household, but they enforced that on our women. So and like it's telling you, you get them. What it say about the horses? Have the horses eaten from the master's hand. Let's get back to that. Says once the offspring is bred, it is suggested to leave the stud free until needed later and watch the mirror teach the infant horse to eat from the master's hand, following its own example. Right? So, because if you don't have the male in the household to get that balance, then a lot of other type of influences can come in and disrupt that child's mental growth and understanding of the world. Because the woman can only do so much, what I'm saying? Like, not saying that women can't raise children, we know what's going on. But what I'm saying is that you need that balance for it can be a healthy development, and studies would back this up, you know what I'm saying? So then it says, the slave owner also mentioned crossbreeding. This method of creating a new species was implemented to produce better labor force. Not only horses, but also African Americans who had to be crossbreeded. According to Douglas, a, a multiplicity of colors was expected to appear if white people and enslaved females with a dark skin gave birth to children, who in turn would be mated after becoming fertile and able to prolong the cycle until forever. So they're talking about making these, different breeds of, different colorations of these children, and like we were stating earlier about how they would put the light skin against the dark skin, whatever, right? And it says uh, Douglas assumed that effect uh, that affecting the black female was a key factor in breaking the will of the blacks. And a African woman turned into a fearful slave who was who has experienced brutal physical punishment would teach her offspring to be submissive and never resist. So, i.e., to how now we saw how the police used to beat people and pull people over for no reason. Now we teach our kids, like, hey, be careful when you out on driving. The police, blah blah blah. You know, make sure they can see your hands. Say yes sir, no sir, and all this stuff, right? So, and we can see the beginning of this, how it all come by. Cause it say if you break after you break the father, then you break the mother, and you expose her to all this physical abuse, and and she see all this devastation that happened when she has children, because a mother love their child, right? We know that a mother love their child, so she's going to teach her child, hey, I don't want you to experience what I just experienced. So look, this is what we're going to do. I need you to do whatever this white person say, whatever master say. That way, he won't cause harm to you. Then he won't, hurt any of us no more, right? So you start developing that thought process of only if I can do this, then master won't beat me no more, right? Which bring me to what I was saying earlier about that study in Europe. I don't want to lie, so I'm not going to give you a country, but I know it happened in Europe where they did the study on the rats and they found out how trauma can be passed to the children genetically. Like I was telling you how they used to shock the father, the father rat, the mice, but then when the children was born, they didn't put shock collars on the children, but the children still knew not to travel to a certain point of that maze, because that trauma was there, right? So so we got to understand the importance of this. So it says, the slave owner. I'm gonna read it again. The slave owner also mentioned crossbreeding. The method of creating a new species was implemented to to the procedure better labor force, not only horses, but also the African American had to be crossbreed. According to Douglas, a multiplicity of colors was expected to appear if a white if white people and enslaved females with dark skin gave birth to children, who in their turn would be mated after becoming fertile and able to prolong the cycle forever. Douglas assumed that affecting a black female was the key factor in breaking the will of the blacks. A African woman turned into a fearful slave who was who has experienced brutal physical punishment would teach her offspring to be submissive and never resist. So this is where we get all this dark side stuff from our people from, right? To achieve that result, the slaveholder suggests destroying the male image in front of her eyes. So this is what we see. This is how, you know, they try to perpetuate us being no good. You know, I know a lot of us are no good, but I'm just saying they perpetuate a lot of us. Us being no good. We're thugs. We're criminals. We don't take care of children, but not understanding the whole process that was behind all of that forced us into that type of behavior. And so it says, to achieve that result, the slaveholder suggests destroying the male image in front of her eyes so that the woman will feel left alone, terrified for the life of her child. Right. So this is why a lot of black women don't trust. This is how it all started with a lot of black women not trusting the black man, thinking that he's not gonna be there for her, that she's gonna get pregnant by him and he's gonna leave her, and or he's not going to be the father that he said he was going to be, because this is all subconsciously implanted into us from this time period and on, because they said this should last for 300 years or more. Like I said, we 300 years out and we see the effects of what's going on. So, and it says the helplessness was supposed to im- imply uh, impel her to never show her will please never to show her will please her master and teach her young black offsprings to act the same way. So it's like, so that's was where you know we get that attitude that that some of our, not all, some of our women carry, where they don't say, well, a nigga can't tell me nothing, but she listens to everything her boss say at work. You know, if her boss say come to work this day, she gonna go to work that day. If the boss say you can't get off work to be with your man or your children, then you gonna go to work that day. You know, and a lot of our women will respect what their bosses say at work versus what their man actually says, and that's wrong. That's backwards right there. You know, because family should be first above all. You know, before you even think about making a dollar, you should have loyalty to your family first. So then, it says, boom, boom, boom. The helplessness was supposed to impel her to never show her will, um, please her master, and teach her young black offspring to act the same. To act the same. A male child should become mentally weak. So this is where, they always talk about how the black man is weak. He's not, strong enough to take care of a black woman and blah blah blah. It's concentrated effort. We're reading about how all this came about. So that's why I say when you're dealing with a black man, you're dealing with a black woman, we have to be patient with each other and understand the what has been done to us as a community to destroy us, to destroy our household, to disrupt that unity that we once had. We got to understand that. This is why patience is key when dealing with each other, because we have been put through this whole social experiment to destroy us. And we got to understand, we're all, we're reading about how this happened. This is a 300 and so year old letter, proclamation that we're reading. And we can see the effects now, right? It says, the male child should have become mentally weak independent, but only physically strong and committed to labor. So this is why you see a lot of strong ass, weak ass niggas. For example, Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal. These big old strong ass niggas, but weak as hell. What's the other one? Terry Crews that let that white man grab his rod. And he act like he was so petrified he didn't know what to do. Oh, this white man, this little small white man that I'm 3 times his size, just grab my punch that nigga in the face. That's what you do. God damn it. Fuck Hollywood. Punch that nigga in the face. That's what you do. That's how you settle that. But you got a lot of these big muscle bound ass niggers that's scared of their own power, that don't even know they got power. They got all these muscles and don't know how to use them. Why? Because it says the male child would have become mentally weak and dependent, but physically strong and committed to labor. A female child would have grown into a unprotected slave. That's why a lot of our women, the black woman is the most unprotected person on the planet today. The black woman is very unprotected because we have a lot of weak and feminine males that don't want to step up to the road to protect the black woman. And we see this going on now. It says the female child would have grown into a unprotected slave just like her mother, thus becoming a role model for her own girls. Right? So hold on, we're gonna jump off to this real quick. So it says being a role model for her own girls. This is important. Hold on, bear with me, bear with me. Looking for something in Jeremiah. But this is good too. I'm gonna try to find the other one too. But it says it's a prophecy from Jeremiah. It says Jeremiah 31 and 22. How long will thou go about, O backsliding daughters? For the talking about the children of Israel. For the Lord has created a new thing on earth. A woman shall compass a man. Meaning, you know, like I said, that woman is going to start, becoming the authority in the household, and the man is going to take that uh, weak, effeminate state that we see today, that we're reading about in the Willie Lynch thing. Um, so, so then, so that's what Jeremiah says. It says, "How long will it go about, O backsliding daughter? For the Lord have created a new thing in the earth. A woman should compass a man." And that's what we're reading about. This whole role reversal, this whole big mama spirit, where the woman is running everything and the man just sitting on the couch watching football all day, you know, and just waiting to eat, you know, um, and become docile and effeminate, right? So let's see this one. Let's see if I can find the one I'm looking for though. Let's see. Let's see if I can find the one I'm looking for. Oh, bear with me, bear with me. See if I can find the one I'm looking for. So hold on one second, one second. Trying to remember exactly where it's at. Could be in Jeremiah again. Let's see. Was it in Isaiah? Or that way? Sorry. Oh, man. Okay, it's in Ezekiel. My bad. My bad. Okay, right here, Ezekiel 16:44. Behold, everyone that useth proverbs shall say this proverb against thee. So we reading how we just read in the Willie Lynch letter that uh, how she would teach it to her daughter, right? So now this is Ezekiel, prophet Ezekiel, right? So then it says, 16:44, behold, everyone that uses this proverb shall use this proverb against thee. Who is the thee? The children of Israel. Saying, as is the mother, so is the daughter. So we just read how she going to teach her daughter these type of ways. So then we might hear how we say nowadays, because we said it's going to be a proverb amongst the earth. Oh, you just like, man, like, her mama is this type of way, and she gonna be the same type of way, whatever that way is, you know, and so we can see how even the prophet Ezekiel saw this happening, to our people. Then we can see through the Willie Lynch letter how it was designed for this to happen towards our people. So that our women will be corrupted in such a way where that and broken that they would end up teaching that brokenness to their daughter, and further perpetuating this dysfunction, you know, that we see amongst our people. Like I said, and I know some of y'all might get, don't get sensitive on me. This goes both ways because we just read about how the male is soft and effeminate and weak and not stepping into his role. So this thing goes both ways. They attacked it, both of us. That's why I'm trying to tell you that when you're dealing with a black man, you're dealing with a black woman, you have to have a certain level of patience when you're dealing and you're in a relationship with one another. Because we're all destroyed mentally because of the system that they place, right? So let's get back to the letter. So it says, a female child will have grown into an unprotected slave just like her mother, thus becoming a role model for her own girls. This is why, you see the mama twerking, they got the little 3-year-old daughter in the background twerking, doing stuff. So yeah, it gets like that, So it says, the next part is called shifting gender roles. So it says the role of the male and female, which Douglas believed to be natural, were supposed to be completely reversed. So this is where the whole feminine type men start coming in, and you know, and then you got the masculine woman, that's think that she's physically capable of whooping a man for whatever reason she done concocted in her mind. But it says the role of a male and a female, which Douglas believed to be natural, were supposed to be completely reversed, as a man would become faint and deficient. In contrast, a woman would follow her mother's example and mature into an independent, negotiable, uh, negotiable adult. So then, so you got a lot of our women that want to claim that title of independency, but you don't understand that no other woman talk like that. You can't find an independent Chinese woman. You cannot find an independent Arab woman. You will not find an independent white woman because they have men by their side. But our women uh been exposed to this independency, you know, and it's been disruptive to them. It has not been helpful to them. It's been very detrimental to them. That's why you have a lot of 40-year-old single black women because they spent their time want to be independent of a man. Now that they're upper in age and realize that they need that help, because nobody is meant to live alone. But their actions that they took throughout the course of their life caused them to be alone at a certain age. But we see that it was a planned measure taken back all the way 300 years ago when this whole Willie Lynch letter was compiled. So, like I said, it's not an attack on nobody. It's just us understanding where all of this stuff comes from. Cause like I've been saying throughout this whole thing, we gotta have patience and understanding with one another. To understand that we're all jacked up, right? And we're reading why we're jacked up. Amongst other things. So then it says a particular example was described in Frederick Douglass' work. He depicted a highly probable course of events if two female slaves gave birth to two children of different sexes, having their male father away, they would raise the gender uh, position shift, meaning if the mother have a daughter and a son, she's gonna raise the daughter like she should raise the son, and she's gonna raise the son like she should raise the daughter. Why? It goes all the way back to what we read earlier in this proclamation that if you destroy the male image in front of her eyes, that would break the female. So she don't want her son to she her only son. She don't want her son to die. She don't want to see her son locked up. She don't want to see her son in the streets doing crazy stuff. So what she do? She sheltered the son, and then she gave liberty to the daughter. So then, thus creating that distinction between each other children. So now you have a son that's effeminate, but then you have a masculine daughter. So, and this is going back to then. This is like implemented these people implemented this stuff a long time ago, and they knew what they was doing. This was a planned effort, you know, of doing what they was doing. So let's read it again. Like I said, it's not an attack on nobody. This is we got to read these documents and understand how this affects us today. And the truth is the truth. Whether you agree with it, disagree with it, like it, understand it or not. This is what happened. It says a particular example was described in Frederick Douglass' work. He depicted a highly probable course of events if two female slaves gave birth to two children of different sexes, having their male father away, they would raise the gender positions shifted. After the black male child and the black female child reached productive age, it was recommended to the male. It was recommended to mate them and continue the cycle. But like I said, we understand that these things, these traumas, is uh, passed to our children genetically. So it says, so after you get them into that mentality, then you put them in a mating, cycle where they can have children and perpetuate that same idea over and over again until we get to 2023, and we have a whole bunch of skinny jean wearing niggas with their pants hanging down, showing they butt, and you got a lot of masculine women, with her finger pointing at her man forehead. So, like I said, so this is where we all this stuff come in at. So, and we got to understand the concentrated effort that they put in place to make us like this. You know, and I know some people say, well, you sound like you blaming. Hell yeah, I'm blaming them because this is their plan. We're reading their damn playbook right now. That's what we're doing. And so yeah, so we gotta understand what's going on, right? It says if it was declared in the study that the white people were to adjust the language they used when speaking to their black slaves, the author outlined that understanding the language and perceiving its undertones could lead to certain enlightenment of black slaves. That scenario was uh, in, inadmissible for the desirable Western economic prosperity. Meaning, don't use big words when you talk to your slaves. Don't. talk in an educated manner when you're speaking with them, because if you start using certain uh, vehicular, you know, vocabulary, then you might stand a chance of actually teaching them something and teaching them different ways of expressing themselves and learning new words. So no, don't allow them to speak in a certain manner, by using certain vocabulary with these people, right? So that's the thought process. That's why you hear somebody say, "Rinse around there and rinse around there and rinse that off," or something crazy like that, right? You know what I'm talking about. So then it says, purpose of interloping narrative. Douglas was sure that the only obstacle that could ruin this plan would a rise of the gender position of a black man and a black woman reshift again. So it's saying like once if these people ever come to the conclusion like, hey, we need to not act like this. I need to be more of a man and be more, act more manly. And the woman realize, hey, I need to, you know, probably be a little more feminine and not be so rough around the edges. Then what it said, um, Douglas ensured that the only obstacle that could ruin his plan could arise if the gender positions of the black man and black woman reshifted again. Meaning, if the woman stop acting like the man and the man stop acting like the woman, then it will fall apart. So that's what we got to understand where we at today. And it says, as a human nature seems quite likely to defend against such inventions. The solution he introduced was curating a bunch of illusions and shaving off uh, the black mental history. So it says get rid of the give. That's where the whole loss of history comes from. Where we can't. They always when you watch these historical movies, they always start us off on the slave ships. Like our history began there. You know what I'm saying? Or on the shores of Western Africa where they was kidnapping us from over there. We have a rich history. Cause like I said, this Bible right here is our history. You know, and this Bible, when you read from Genesis to Revelation, you reading about your ancestors and your people. You know what I'm saying? And that's why we have such a connection with this Bible. That's why a lot of us millions of us sit in church across the country every Sunday listening to a lying ass pastor. Because we have a connection to this book, right? And because it's our history. So, but it's telling you in this Willie Lynch letter, it's telling you to basically destroy their history, have them disconnect from that history. That way they cannot go back to, understanding the strength of their ancestors, and then they can continue perpetuating the behavior that they desire, right? It says the solution he introduced was curating a bunch of illusions and shaving off black mental history, right? And that's what we see. That's why they don't show us everything. That's why a lot of times we got to do extra research just to learn about a new civil rights person or whatever, or go dig deeper and figure out who Mansa Musa was and all these other people, right? Because they don't talk about these things. They don't even talk about Malcolm X. It's a movie out about Malcolm X that Spike Lee did, but nobody talk about Malcolm X. We got to look it up. So it says, in 1832, a man called Henry Berry took the floor in Virginia House of Delegates. The speech given by him was meant to report on outstanding results of managing slaves and strengthening control over black people. Berry announced that the new methods implemented in the 18th century after studying the matter more closely had helped the slaveholders of America develop a new control system, it most making it impossible for the slave to uh, resist their master. He said that the American people had closed every avenue by uh, which enlight may enter their slave's mind. So they said whatever way that a slave could think about revolting or improving a mental capacity to be more than just a slave, they took measures to cut that off. Right. This is what they're saying here. Right. So let me see. Boom, boom, boom. So yeah, that's basically it right there. Right. And I think we got through all the whole thing. Let me double check. I want to make sure we didn't miss out on anything else. Yeah, that's everything right there, right? So, like I said, so this is their concentrated effort and what they did called the Willie Lynch letter. And we can see the effects of this. That's why we have to read this thing to ask ourselves, is this happening now? And the answer is yes. Abundantly, yes. It is happening because we can see it plaguing our culture to this day. The self hatred, the distrust between the man and the female, the single parent homes, the the whole dependency on this government. How you can't even say anything bad about the so called white man without somebody coming to his defense. That whole everything. You know, so yes, all of that is plaguing us to this day. So with that being said, you know, y'all can look this up yourselves, the Willie Lynch letter, and read it yourselves and comb through it. So with that being said, I'm gonna say shalom to all of y'all. We're gonna get back into the Maccabees series too, reading about our mighty warriors, the Maccabees. So shalom and peace.